Good afternoon. It is 6:05. Good early evening. It's time for us to jump across the pond to our favourite prof, Professor John Christopher Bua, White House correspondent at Real Political News. There is a lot to get through. Good afternoon, or good morning, I think, or just about afternoon, wherever you are, Prof. JC. The White House the Capitol riot hearings have begun today. Opened in a dramatic way. President Trump accused of attempting a coup. You've no doubt been watching them closely. There's so much to get through. One of the things I have to say I am shocked by, and I'm a man that's rarely shocked, is I've just seen a tweet, and actually it's not a tweet because he's been banned from Twitter, ex-President Trump throwing his own daughter under a bus when she said in the course of her testimony that she didn't believe the election was rigged and supported the ex-Attorney General Bill Barr. Donald J. Trump, on whatever platform he was using, said Ivanka Trump was not involved in looking at or studying election results. She had long since checked out and was, in my opinion, only trying to be respectful to Bill Barr and his position as Attorney General, brackets, he sucked. I have to say, whatever you think...
Very presidential.
Right. Whatever you think, okay, about how fair or how reasonably the Trump presidency was covered, whatever your political complexion, what do you make of that? I have to say, you said in an ironic way it wasn't presidential. How is he even a serious political player, even now, after a tweet like that? Well,
his disciples have deified him, and they'll stick with him. But let's see if the intelligent, open-minded individuals, having seen this, will in fact stick with him. My feeling is they won't. By the way, Ivanka was in the White House with him, as well as his son-in-law, and his son's future wife, and the whole crew was there dancing while watching these horrible riots and this mob action. Where, by the way, Trump said he promised them on the South Lawn, I'm going to march with you down Pennsylvania Avenue. And even the Proud Boys were annoyed because he wasn't with them. He let them all go there and get in trouble themselves. And I'll tell you what, this is quite astounding, Rob. You've heard of Watergate. I know you weren't there, but we had another president, Richard Nixon, who tried to usurp and take power and change the course of election. And he, because of his paranoia, he was beaten by JFK, et cetera. It's all history. But it was about power and money. This is about power and staying alive. And Nixon won the entire country except 2 states in the District of Columbia.
Now, I know that
was crazy.
That's true, but it's a different time. And, people would argue, no doubt, I have to say persuasively, that, Bill Clinton, who was impeached, we don't live at a time of that level or that nature of political integrity anymore. And, one of the, if I say, malignancies of the American political system is the presence of lobbying. Now, I have to put to you the other side of the argument, as far as there is one here, that this, whilst was a terrible event by any stretch of the imagination, the claims that have been made about the deaths of police officers have been, some argue, wildly conflated. There was a protester killed, but that the focus of Capitol Hill shouldn't be on this with the weight and disproportionate resources when you've got wave after wave of shooters going into public spaces who have unfettered access to semi-automatic weapons. And although Congress or the House of Representatives have passed some legislation limiting access to those firearms, it looks like it's going to be held up in the Senate. What are your politicians doing focusing on this while some would argue Rome is burning?
Well, we have no country unless this is worked out. I am with you on the weapons. I prefer Great Britain's rules and laws when it comes to ridiculous things like firearms. They should be banned, but they attacked our democracy. They attacked the rule of law. And without the transfer of government, peaceful transfer of government, we have no United States of America, and we have no country to be a symbol to the rest of the world for our democracy and our fellow neighbors, just like yourself, across the Atlantic Ocean. We don't have a country without this being resolved.
But part of that having a country requires you to have some kind of civil discourse and civil debate. and for the level of tribalism, that your Democratic team or your GOP team, your Republican team, and the consequent inability for politicians or individuals, communities to be able to hear and talk to one another has never been more impossible. And I wonder whether, as Joe Biden promised when he became president, he would be the president for all Americans, whether you feel, reflecting on his presidency and certainly looking at these hearings, that that's going to have some semblance of healing to enable people to talk to each other in that way. Certainly Liz Cheney, a Republican, is part of this. But you were looking at the right-wing media, they are actively against this, and I have to say seem to be rather lowering the significance of these hearings. To what extent is that going to prevent you moving forward in the way that you would want and you described to secure, protect, and to defend your democracy? As
I assume you've seen some of the clips from the hearing last night, right. It was remarkably civil. It was really... The hero of the evening was a Republican whose father was Dick Cheney. Yeah. As you hear, Liz Cheney was in fact the star, and she warned her GOP colleagues, if they will, who continue to defend the indefensible, one day Donald Trump will be gone, but your dishonor will remain. That's to her own party. I think this may be a solving moment for us, a saline moment for us. We have 6 more of them, and they're coming up next week, Rob. And I suggest you and all your viewers here on this wonderful Talk TV, watch it and listen to it and learn from it and know that we really care. We are hurting. I am myself, who was a public servant who worked in the Clinton administration. I took the oath to defend the Constitution. And I am in tears watching this horrible thing. And we must come together as a nation. This is our only hope for the future. Yeah.
Isn't part of that, to some extent believing, or at least wanting to believe, that potential future presidents who may come from the Republican Party that are seeking political office may be politicians of goodwill, even if they hold and even if they espouse different political views from you? To what extent do you think that really exists in the political discussion and landscape at the moment? Because to an outside observer, I have to say, civil discourse appears to be long dead and buried.
Well, I think that the metastasizing tumor is, in fact, Donald Trump. And when he is gone, and he knows he lied, he knows it. And this is intent. You're a legal scholar, You're a lawyer, you're a judge. And he's showing that he knew this. He was told by all his aides he did not win. But he continued to go on, and he had a 7-point plan to disrupt this election, to discredit and undermine the confidence the American people have. And then he pushed his lie out, and he literally begged these people to come. And one of his top attorney, Rudy Giuliani, said, "Come, it's going to be a trial of combat." That morning, I was there on the South Lawn in the White House, at the White House South Lawn, and it was very, very, very scary. And these individuals went there expecting Trump to lead them there, and they were caught, many of them arrested, and many of them are members of Congress who are asking to be pardoned. And the truth seems to be a big lie. That's the truth. It's coming out, Rob, right. And that's the hope.
Well, but, I watch all of the news outlets in America, the big networks from, MSNBC, one might could accurately describe as being on the left, CNN, to watching Fox as well. And I have to say, the shouting on both sides and the lack of Venn diagram of people talking civilly as they might have done years ago, and I'm going to repeat this because it bears repetition, has never been more extreme. You're somebody that's a centrist, you work for Clinton, you're undoubtedly Democratic leaning. If I were to ask you, Trump now seems, hopefully, and I say hopefully, and I've never been a never Trumper, I think the Abraham Accords are certainly something of his track record that is, if for want of a better way of describing it, not nothing. But he's now dead and buried. Who in the GOP do you think might represent some semblance of leadership, given it looks like, in all probability, this is going to be a one-term Democratic president?
Well, people like Liz Cheney, and she's going to have some problems in her own state. Mitt Romney seems to be popular. Adam Kinzinger is a popular guy. I mean, we're talking about people who have a soul and a heart and listen, and not just become part of the mob, because that's what we don't want to be. We don't want to have that. We want to have discussion. We want to have intercommunication with our parties. And I long for the times of Eisenhower and Republicans and George H.W. Bush. Oh my God, even W is looking good right now.
Prof. JC, just the last...
He would admit.
Yeah, just the a last point. You know, I advise people to do it. I watched Matthew McConaughey, the actor.
I was there.
You were there. Okay, well, I'm going to ask you about it.
I was 3 feet away.
That I have to say, you know, I never think, I think it's like oil and water, that Hollywood or celebrity and making a political stand mix, I think it's usually a bad thing. But he's from Uvalde, Texas, where those little kids were shot down in cold blood. I'd advise anybody to watch it. First of all, what did it feel like to be there? And what do you think the chances of there being any gun reform are? And do you think he was heard?
Well, to be honest with you, when I got I was at the White House that day doing a clip, and I got the notice that Matthew would be joining us in the briefing room. And I thought, okay, well, let's see. I mean, he's another actor who's going to be, you know, polishing his Emmy or Academy Award. Then I heard he was from this town.
Yeah.
And when he came out, he's a striking-looking fellow, and he came out and he started in. You know, I was an actor, and I know what it's like to put your emotions and your heart and soul into a dialogue, and a monologue actually, and he brought it out. And I thought, son of a gun, I'll give this guy credit. He went there, went with his wife. Yeah. He talked to the kids and the parents, and I started to get very emotional, as many of us did. And there was a few creeps in the place who told him he was a self-aggrandizement and all that. But he used his star power for good. And you know, you can do that. And if it's for good, then you throw it out there, and you hope to God that people will notice and do something for good change.
Right. Well, as we said, the lower house has passed kind of sweeping gun reform bill. Whether or not it gets through the Senate, who knows? It doesn't look hopeful. You'll no doubt come back to tell us about that next week, and so much more. As ever, it's our very own Prof. JC, Professor John Christopher Bua, White House correspondent at Real Political News.